about family. Recent days, family is here. In the front, in the corner, in the back. And then that's blood family. But we are all now family. As we think about our connections and our past. Some of us have relationships we don't know about because we haven't talked to one another yet. You're from where? Oh yeah, I have a cousin that lives, really? I grew up. That goes on in our lives all the time. So the fractured psyches we have from our, this issue of being stolen from the land that we came from, we're now over here disconnected from our realities. So the reason why I wanted to present today the topic on fearful memories hinder ancestral healing, because a lot of people are running from themselves.
That's right.
Brother Hicks, it's good that your family member allowed you to present at her conference. That's what family's about. Let me put you on the block to see, let you deliver your work so people can know what's important in terms of our people. The issue of drugs. People wouldn't do drugs if they appreciated themselves. The dynamic of seeking something else to make you feel good, you have everything in your body to make you feel good. Brother Bonham, as a clinical psychologist, just broke it down to you about meditating and tuning into yourself first. Our ancient African ancestors, it's written on the temples, know thy what? Self. It's there. So the drugs become a way to now deter us and really take us away really at the early stages. Sister Linda James Myers said about on the temples, it's written there that, it's documented that, people were using things for medicinal purposes and also to raise consciousness, but their whole concept of life was different back then. It was about living for the afterlife. Here today, we live to make $1. Dollar, money. So our ancestors have given us ways to travel through this world, but we distance ourselves from them. We try not to acknowledge them because some of us are scared of that. So I appreciate Sister Rosalind Jeffries and how she wrote it out like an encyclopedia about what's going on in the world and connecting things from different cultural perspectives. I mean, you all have that energy right here. And again, this is not just a normal conference because you all had what? Give back. Not feedback, give back. A lot of times you go to conferences, you don't get a chance to talk to people. You don't get a chance to express yourself. All the give back that was given here may not have been able to respond at that moment, but guess what? The ideas have been now sprinkled to be fertilized.
All right.
Now we can make some changes. So what I'm going to do is just roll through some information dealing with why we didn't run from our memories, but deal with the brain. The brain is the most elaborately constructed entity in the universe, and we're scared to deal with it. Or we're running from it, don't want to deal with the science of it. So let's go ahead and look into this. Yes, I have it. So we heard the term menticide stated before. I believe that was Dr. Myers, you mentioned that, right? So Bobby Wright coined this term menticide, defined as the deliberate and systematic destruction of the group's mind, with the ultimate objective being the extirpation of the group. So we have now, so Sister Teresa, they said I was a clinical psychologist. I'm actually a biological psychologist. Or you could say physiological psychologist. Or what you could say, I study neuroscience. So I study the brain. So the concepts of how it is that our brain influences our body is what I focus on. Someone asked, was I a neuropsychologist? Neuropsychologists study a battery of tests. Somebody has depression, they have anxiety, or schizophrenia, they give them a test, and they'll determine if that's the case. Sister Teresa was talking about we need to define our own ways of saying what is a mental disorder. Because those diagnostic statistical manuals created by white people are opinions, as you said. People go in and say, hey, what do you think about this? So they vote on if this is a disorder. Homosexuality used to be a disorder.
That's right.
Homosexuality used to be a disorder, but now with the Europeans who now had crossed over and now were exhibiting that behavior, well, it's not a disorder anymore. So who is it that's defining things? So this issue of menticide, our minds have been manipulated and controlled by others, which means we can no longer control ourselves, therefore we become addicted to drugs to what find ourselves. European ancestral memory, which we don't pay attention to. We just saw the election, so we saw their ancestral memory be highlighted, right? Toussaint Louverture. Here it says, My decision to destroy the authority of the blacks in Haiti is based on the need to block forever the march of blacks in the world. That's not Napoleon right there. Napoleon said that. That's not Napoleon right there. Napoleon, European ancestor, said that. Why? Because in Haiti, there's a certain spirit of rebellion. We don't have to say rebellion, of appreciation of who they are as a people. Of course, the reason why Haiti is not being supported on an international level is because they're the first Africans to kick Europeans ASS in the Western Hemisphere. So they'll never allow that spirit to rise again. Brother Bynum was stating earlier about Vodun. I think Sister Jeffries, probably Lynn James Myers talked about it. In other cultures, how they deal with the spirits. They were able to not just control, use them for their advancement. Today we don't tap into that properly. So again, knowing what the Europeans' mindset is, they don't want you to rise. We have to be in a position where we don't care about them wanting us to rise. We're gonna rise anyway. Isn't that what Maya Angelou said? And still we rise. So the comment came up the other night with Daryl. I believe you were asking today about the movies. So movies displaying courage. Remember 42 with Jackie Robinson. What he went through and what he was challenged with, a lot of us couldn't have done. So they picked a person that they say, maybe he can handle this. But if you saw 42, there were positions where, I'm gonna strike back, but he didn't, he held on. 12 Years a Slave, I don't know if you saw that. Solomon Northrop. There are positions in there where you saw that, you're like, do I hold back or what do I do? You got to look at these movies in the position of people who have the spirit to fight back, not the issue of, oh, here we getting beat down again. No, look at the indomitable spirit. Look at what's in the body, in the brain, to what fight against rather than to put your head down. That's why the Europeans had gotten us. They trapped our minds. You know what Steve Biko said? The greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. That's what Steve Biko said. That's on another continent, another place, but the same fight. So when we deal with the issue of these movies, Selma, you saw that. Sister Ava DuVernay talked about what went on down there in Alabama, Mississippi, in the South, where I'm actually coming from. Yeah, it's the Pacific West, isn't it? Yeah. This is my first invite to the Pacific West. I appreciate you. Beautiful black people in the Pacific West. Such a lovely experience. I also had the chance for McQueen to travel with me, Cheryl. Thank you very much for coming on with me. So, went far away from home, but had a close heart by me. Black Panthers, the vanguard of the revolution. Brother Stanley Nelson. Brother Stanley Nelson put this on at the Independent Film Festival. But this is also a description of what we went through as a people. Have we watched it? Did we look at it? Have we learned from it? Free State of Jones, Mississippi. True story. But it's showing the indomitable spirit again of people fighting, not even just blacks, but the poor whites who didn't think that they were niggers either. Think that they were better than the same people who didn't have either. But they had to come together to fight against something. And the last one, Birth of a Nation, because we know about that right now. With Nat Turner's information, but it was told from a storyline that was not actually just Nat Turner, because it wasn't like the exact facts, but guess what? It was a story about what happened. We don't pay attention to the brother who has the museum on display out here for us. The kids need to see it. The kids need to see it. So the issue is, where is your state of consciousness? Are we still locked down? You know the reason why they took them chains off? Because they had this. That's right. So we had a lot of discussions about the Bible in here. We had a lot of discussions about religion in here. But again, the dynamic is, when they got your mind, you don't have to worry about anything. So we got the kids today. That should say up there, the African American student. It says pre-Trump and the 2016 elections. Pre-Trump. So there's a brother named Ellis Coates who wrote a book called The Rage of the Privileged Class. He also wrote a book called The End of Anger, how these kids right now, there's no problems with racism. This is 2011 now, there's no issues. 2016 election, what just happened? What's the aura in the air? What are kids feeling? You got white people now emboldened with, now they can do whatever they want, think they can do whatever they want to people. Little kids talking, I'm going to grab this little girl's vagina. Why? Because the president said, so I can do this. What kind of mindset is that? So now you have kids going through school thinking everything's all right. Here's an image of an African-American male athlete, and I just bought this book from Vicky's bookstore, and I encourage you all to buy books from Vicky's bookstore. If you don't buy books from a black bookstore, you're not going to get any books that deal with black people. Book called Commodified and Criminalized, The New Racism and African Americans in Contemporary Sports. Didn't know existed. I looked at it. Oh, the brothers and sisters, they're here in Washington State. Okay, so this is a local kind of publication, but the point is sports, imagery. The reason why I'm showing this, that's a brother. What's on his shirt? Can anybody see that?
Joe Namath.
No, Joe Namath.
Scarface?
Scarface. Black males, Scarface. What are we identifying with? That's the point I'm making. Are we identifying what our history that the brother has out there in display? You see all those inventors out there? You see all the people that have done some positive things in our experience, but we're identifying with Scarface. Is that the child's fault or the parent's fault? Society's fault or whose fault? Point is that we need to control the state of where our kids' minds are. So, memory. The purpose of memory is to predict the future. You can't remember anything, you can't know what you're supposed to do in life. Here on the front image of this display is what happened in Texas with J.F. Kennedy being murdered. We all seen these images, and there's Zapruder films, Zapruder, about seeing the shots, and people are now still making stories about what happened and who shot what and where it come from, and the man in the car shot, and memories. People have all kinds of different memories, different interpretations of memories. In the brain is where we're going to go to discuss where these issues in the brain, where the memories are lasting. Mimicry. Kids mimic. The brother brought his daughter here. We talked about that the other day. Kids see what others are doing, guess what then they do? The brother talked about the issue of the kids and drugs. Don't do as I say. No, don't do what I do, as I say.
Don't do as I do as I say. Don't do as I do as I say.
So the dynamic is, even with books, how you gonna tell your child to read, you're not reading? How you gonna tell your child to read, you're not reading? So the issue is kids mimic what they see. Here it's talking about the issue of a monkey, because you know the whole term monkey see, monkey do. Well, in the brain, there are certain cells called mirror neurons. They call them mirror neuron cells, but they're called red nucleus cells. Guess what? This is the place where, if I asked you right now, can anybody here moonwalk?
Yeah.
You moonwalk? Okay. For those that say, well, maybe I can't, but I know someone who's done it. What's in your mind when you think about moonwalking? Not first thing that came to your mind, huh? I wore white socks, doing this thing, right? So in your brain, are those cells lit up while that's going on? That's a long time ago. That's all these different people having the same thing lit up in their brain in the place called the red nucleus. We'll go over that a little later. So neural networks with mirror properties may ultimately be responsible for empathy, language, and social behavior. You've seen 42 with the little kids watching his dad lambaste Brother Jackie Robinson on the field, and little kids like looking at his dad like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Rosewood. Where in Rosewood they got a little white boy that the white man is trying to show him what we need to do to be lynching these black people and hanging them, and the little boy is like at the very end, Dad, you're not no real man, and walked away. But the kids seeing this stuff. So now we think about the election that just happened. We know what happens behind the closed doors of people's households. We know what happens behind the curtains of a booth where it's now just you in that voting booth. So you now got a dynamic of people's mindsets are manipulated and controlled in a certain way that it goes back. Ancestral memories. So you have had some images out there in the hallway. So I do have to say this on the front end, warning to viewers, viewer discretion is advised. Some people don't want to deal with, I wouldn't use the word slavery, but imprisonment. What happened to us? We were imprisoned. were enslaved. We were Africans that were taken as prisoners.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we accept the word slave. That means we're the only people in the world that ever been slaves. That's not the truth. So we were captive. And we were captive by people who had devious mindsets to construct certain entities so we couldn't walk, couldn't eat, keep you away from your families. I'll try to read through these real quick so I can make sure I get to the brain component. But the master would put us in holding at night to be whipped the next morning. He always limited the lashes to 500. After whipping them, he would rub salt and pepper on their backs, were whipped and laid them before the fire until blistered, and then take a cat and hold the cat and make them claw the blisters to burn them, to burst them. So somebody actually has a mindset to want to do that? Slavery was the worst days that was ever seen in the world. They was things past telling, but I got scars on my body, old body, to show to this day. I see worse than what happened to me. I see them put the men and women in the stock with their hands screwed down through holes in the board and their feet tied together and they naked behind to the world. Solomon, the overseer, beat them with a big whip and the master look on. The niggers better not stop in the fields when they hear them yelling. They cut the flesh, most of the bones, and when they taken them out of stock and put them on the beds, they never got up again. You seen Sankofa? Mutabaruka, playing Shango, always trying to find a way to get away. Others like, I'm staying in here. I'm not going to create no problems. I don't know if you ever seen Tamango with Dorothy Dandridge.
Yeah.
Tamango, a brother who fought lions. You going to capture me and think that you're just going to hold me here? So on the ship, the brother is trying to fight and get away all the time. But why you get us in trouble, man? Just stop. Brother fought lions. How you gonna hold me back? So the dynamic of, again, these images, we fear looking at it. But guess what? When you remember it, you might not let it happen again. When you wipe it out, act like it didn't exist, guess what? You might have some problems. Again, more issues in the field. Images that we've seen in movies and images we've seen in books. Those same people that are sitting there eating popcorn, smoking cigarettes, watching this, are the same people just voted for Donald Trump. Aunts, uncles, parents, lineages, ancestors. We're gonna act like this didn't exist? Hangings. We're gonna act like that never happened. The sister sang Strange Fruit last night beautifully.
Getting color spring.
Some people don't even know what strange fruit means. The kids today probably don't even know what that means. They might think it's a new form of what? Marijuana. And we laugh at that, but there's a whole lot of disconnect between our cultures now. Our generations, that is. The same, see, y'all looking at the images of the hangings. I'm talking about the people sitting around watching this. The same people who did that voting. Voted this man in as a misogynist, sexist, rapist. Bankrupt how many times? And that's your leader? And these came from a book called Without Sanctuary. Thick text, and it has some of the postcards that people were sending to one another about what was going on. In terms of cutting off body parts and keeping them as souvenirs, stuff like that. So Ancestral here, come on, man. I'm just supposed to forget that? Come on. Well, like Karinga said, in the past. Yeah, I mean, white man's Freddy Krueger in history. Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street. Jason, Saw Man. The list does not end, but y'all saw what happened last week in South Carolina.
Yeah. Would not put down his butcher knife to become a Buddha. That's what Dr. Karinga said.
For the white man?
He said Dr. Karinga said Chucky would not put down his butcher knife to become a Buddha.
Last week, this guy named Todd Cole had this white woman on his property chained up.
Yeah.
They found her, but then they also found some other bodies he had killed.
Yes.
Phew. It's not like we don't do it also, but not on this level. So in the brain, the emotion system is the limbic system. You got a component in your brain that kind of sears in things that you should be remembering for good. And that's why we talk about ancestral healing for good. But there's some things that are also seared in there that make you then not do the right thing. So the issue of how this works, we're going to discuss that. So it's called limbic because it's a border of like structures deep in the brain that work together collectively. As they work together collectively, they then influence the way that we operate to deal with people. Oh man, that's not good. Well, in this image, I was showing you a cross section of the brain cut this way, from ear to ear. There's a deep part in the temporal lobe called the amygdala. I'll show it, I think, written word a little later on. The amygdala. It's an almond-shaped structure deep right here in the temporal lobe. Right behind it is the hippocampus. For those who don't know the brain, hippocampus is for memory. You got to recall to know what you should not be doing. You got to recall to remember what that information I just shared with you. The amygdala is a place that deals with fear and aggression. You can stimulate it in animals, and it makes them very fearful. You can take it out, not scared of anything. So the amygdala itself as a organ, this image is supposed to show you there's a basolateral area, cortical medial lateral. There's different parts of the amygdala. So just as one little component of the brain, it's responsible for you processing emotion. So the word anxiety came up at the end of the last discussion. I think, Marsha, you were talking about that.
There it is.
So there's a gun. So it says, what triggers anxiety? There's a shortcut and there's a high road. I'm gonna try to read this to you so you can kind of process things that are going on. It says, when startled, the brain automatically engages in an emergency hotline to its fear center. Remember that amygdala? That's that little red area. So the almond-shaped structure on your cheekbone area. Once activated, the amygdala sends the equivalent of an all-points bulletin that alerts other brain structures. The result is the classic fear response: sweating palms, your heart starts beating. If we heard a pop out in the hallway, is that a balloon pop? Is that a gunshot? Is that a car backfiring? All that's going on. So that means your information gets to your brain to process what you should do. So it's before you know why you are afraid, you are. Because why is my heart beating? Because something's about to happen. So think about this. You got a gun. So the gun is dangerous, right? Replace the gun with a black man. What you seeing? So now we got the high road. Only after the fear response is activated does the conscious mind kick into gear. Brother Bonham just went into this consciousness, the super consciousness. And what's powerful is that he and I met at a conference years ago. I also had a chance to bring him to Morehouse College when I was there as a professor. We ended up writing and publishing together, and a lot of our stuff is on a parallel universe. We don't see one another all the time. We don't attend conferences all the time. Either one of us knew Arisha did. She brought us together. She brought all of us together. There's a source, you know what I mean? An embodiment of truth that happens sometimes when people come together. So in the context of him talking about consciousness, some sensory information, rather than traveling directly to the amygdala, because remember, that's like the quick source of you dealing with your stress, takes a more circuitous route. That means goes around. Remember that limbic system? It may go to those other areas. It says stopping first at the thalamus, the processing hub, and then the cortex. So the thalamus is an integration area. You might smell something. That smells like apple pie. Apple pie they had in my grandma's house. Grandma wear down here in Virginia. So all these things are now going on in your brain from just an odor, from a smell. So the thalamus deals with that in the brain. And then it says the cortex, the outer layer of the brain cells. So the brother talked about dark matter in the brain, right? The gray matter. That's what the cortex holds, the gray matter for your thinking. It's like a little layer of cells, 6 layers of cells that without it, you're in trouble. So when someone says you don't have any gray matter between your ears, you take that as an insult. It says the cortex analyzes the raw data streaming in through the senses and decides whether they require a fear response. If they do, the cortex signals the amygdala and the body stays on alert. I know you probably can't see that, but Dara, what does it say at the very bottom there? No, Jabari, I'm sorry, Jabari.
If they do, the cortex signals the amygdala and the body stays on alert.
So what does it say on the bottom left?
Oh, vote Trump.
Are you hearing me?
Whoa.
Okay, I'll read what's in black. Jabari's gonna read what's in white. It says right here at the end, through the senses and decides whether they require a fear response. Remember, this amygdala was to help you deal with your fear. It's like an automatic situation. If something drops real fast or something's loud and popping, your heart is beating. You don't know why it's beating. You just know that there shouldn't be loud sounds around here. Or you look at somebody, maybe your heart beats, and you might fall in love, right? So that whole issue of emotions, something's happening automatically. The shortcut. The high road is where all these other things happen, where your brain now is being processing things. The point I'm making is I'm saying if they do, the cortex signals the amygdala and the body stays on alert.
Right.
So what did you read over here?
Yeah.
Vote Trump.
That's what they did. That's what they did. You know that wasn't the best candidate. You know that wasn't the best leader for this country. But fear. That's what he ran on. Come on, people. Guess what? That's not our problem. Don't worry about it. Why are we worried about a white man? Just a white man. What a white, that's a hoe. How can you not say that? You seen the images of her in Playboy magazines or whatever magazines, and that's your first lady? Come on, people. He's not our problem. As the brother Carl talked the other day about the Southern strategy, the system is the problem. So we need to just do what we need to do to put our information together, put our communities together, have our own conferences, discuss it when we want to, have the sessions when we want to. We want to have it late, have it late. We want to postpone one, postpone it. We dictate that, not on the Europeans' time. So in that context, we're dealing with Trump is not the problem. Don't worry about him. He's just a white man. You already talked about y'all being gods. You already told me y'all were gods. So what you worried about that for? So the body in stress. A lot of people, again, are very sad, upset. The bodies are going through struggles. Guess what? With ancestral healing, you can now start to use them to what? Calm that stress. You can call on your ancestors because they went through much worse times than we did. This is nothing. I get a chance to fly back home tomorrow. I get a chance to eat some, I don't know, we got lady fingers over there. That's what you eating there? Is that lady fingers? What y'all call that in Pacific West? What is that?
Yeah, lady fingers.
Nice stuff. People we just saw being locked down, they couldn't eat like that. So the dynamic is we are thankful for what we have. Our ancestors have gone through the struggles to put us where we are, so we can't let anything deter us. So at this point, we're talking about stress. Stress will kill you. Stress will make your body start go through reactions that you now can't compensate, and now you got your internal organs failing. I appreciate Brother Bynum stating earlier about the solar system up in the sky. Guess what? You got a solar system in your body. When those organs become disconnected and don't work together, now you have stress that can be impacted. So on a short-term effect, you got the hypothalamus. It kicks in a hormone called CRH, corticotropic releasing hormone. Sorry about the technical terms, and guess what? We need to know this. The hypothalamus kicks out CRH to release the pituitary gland to release ACTH. All that's going now, adrenal cortical stimulating hormone, to the adrenal glands. What do the adrenal glands kick in? Cortisol. What is cortisol? Stress. Helps you deal with the stress of the situation. Too much cortisol, guess what? Is like having a steroid in your body. Overweight issues, depression, all kinds of things that happen on the level of short term. Long term, on the level of, in terms of the problems, cortisol is a steroid. Naturally, it's in your body to help deal with inflammation. If a saber-toothed tiger came and flying in the room right now and you started running, bam, you hit your toe, are you gonna be looking at your toe? Nah, your body's dealing with the inflammation, so you don't have to worry about that. So cortisol is coming in to deal with that. The stress, you gotta get information to your, or energy to your muscles, you better run. Saber-tooth tiger is coming after you. So this chemical is circulating to help you deal with the immediate response. The point is, long term, you got some problems. Long term health problems, impaired memory, weakened immune system, high blood pressure, stomach ulcers, skin problems, digestive difficulties, long-term stress. We just had a clinical psychologist talk to you about what? Meditating and controlling internal organs. You just had a brother who's dealing with recovery and drug addiction. Some people will do that to get away from it, deal with the stress. So you have the power within your own body to deal with it, and that's where the melanin component comes in. So deep in the brain, on the left side there, left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. If you now cut the brain front to back, that's what this is showing you. Deep in the brain, you got these melanated centers that are around here, and you see how deep it is because you can't even get there and touch them. They're there for a reason, melanated, because these are the cores of consciousness that Brother Bynum just mentioned. Deep in, yeah. So deep. Here's another kind of way.
Can you go back one?
Sure. So this is a live section of a brain showing you, again, the white part is where the tracks are, the things that go through and pass through. Where you see the dark areas are usually where you see the dark matter and the cell bodies for the brain processing. So when we go deeper in the brain, should be a pointer on here. No. Okay. When you go deeper in the brain, these areas here contain melanated structures, and we call that neuromelanin. So here's another image showing you again the brain. That area right there, it's yellow, that's right here, and white is the corpus callosum. It connects the right and the left hemispheres. So basically the two hemispheres should communicate. We have a lot of people that, maybe left brain and they only know math and science. Some people right brain and they get too emotional, can't handle things. And guess what? We need to do what our ancients did, use both sides of the brain. So here, again, when you make a section of the brain, you see these things internally. A lot of people were excited about the bird they think they saw in Dr. Bynum's presentation. That's the ventricular system. The ventricular system controls the flow of cerebrospinal fluid in your brain. Up the spinal cord, around the spinal cord, around your brain, in your brain. So that area you thought it was a bird was the ventricular system. So it's a pathway for hormones to be kind of circulated through and also for waste products to be kind of disseminated. It also is where there's like a cushion in your brain from that fluid. Your brain can't be sitting on your cranium, your skull, because it'll keep hitting it and it's damaging. So there's a fluid that is around, bathes, and also inside. So that bird you saw was actually the ventricular system. Here, things that are in blue, this blue right here is the midbrain area. This is where you have a lot of dark cells, such as the substantia nigra. Substantia nigra. Nigra, black, substantia, substance, black substance. Deep in the middle of the brain. People who have a problem with the substantia nigra have a movement problem called Parkinson's disease. So if that area is disturbed, people have what? Movement problems. Okay, we're dealing with ancestral healing. We're dealing with the issue of moving forward. Guess what? Suppose it worked right. We might be slam dunking balls like we do. Athletics, we might be running like we do. Sports, psychomotor skill development. We excel in every single aspect of that. That's the brain, people, doing that. Also Olympics, we won everything, didn't we? Even the brothers in Fiji Island won rugby for the first time. The very first time they had rugby as an event. Brothers won that event. So deep in the brain, we already talked about the area of the hypothalamus. All these little cells right here have a role to play, like in thirst, hunger, sex drive. And it says it right there. Perhaps you've heard of it, but the pineal gland, look where it sits, dead center. It's actually floating, as Sister Rusiday said about how I talked about it being an area in the deep part of the brain that is kind of floating. So when you're meditating, that can be stimulated. The same way that you can have an erection or the clitoris can become hard, the pineal gland can get hard. Stimulation, higher consciousness. So this is the bad slide for you to see, but over there it says norepinephrine, serotonin. All these pathways here are just showing you where those chemicals go. We talked about depression, I think a little bit. So people who are depressed take a certain chemical called, or most of the drugs that are very effective, they say, to help people with depression are antidepressants like serotonin selective reuptake inhibitors. So they deal with serotonin. They keep more serotonin in the system. So what we're saying here is that we have a system that shows where the serotonin goes, and it overlaps with a lot of the other chemical systems. So that's norepinephrine, so that's serotonin. Well, this is dopamine. You ever heard of dopamine before? So The crack, the sugar, I heard that sugar being talked about here. The lady fingers got sugar, don't they? I know y'all gave you those lady fingers. But that sugar helps you out to make you feel good. So when you deal with dopamine, dopamine is released primarily in two different places. We just talked about this in substantia nigra movement. The other one is the ventral tegmentum area. So this system is called the nigral striatal pathway. Nigral, why? Because it's nigral area, dark first, striatal, because it goes to the corpus striatal. That's for movement. Any disruption there is going to cause the movement problems. This other one, the ventral tegmentum, goes to the frontal part of the brain, an area called the nucleus accumbens. That's where Brother Hicks' work comes into play. Because why? In the nucleus accumbens are the dopamine receptors for what? Addiction, reinforcement. So the drug studies have shown that. You do brain scans of people that shows that. So the nucleus accumbens in that forebrain area coming from here is where the drug addiction comes from. And you know the scenario with addiction. People say when they take their first hit, they now keep doing it because they keep looking for that first hit. Never happened again. So we need some spiritual technology. What is that? Melanin. Again, for some reason it's not showing good on the image here, but melanin is a carbon-based biopolymer. The question already came up, what is melanin? Yes, it's the skin pigment here, but it's also in fruit. It's in the universe. It's in your brain. We just discussed that. You see your beautiful black hair? It's there. It's everywhere. As an indestructible item, it has some properties that deal with health, nutrition. On the physical level, I wrote the book Science of Melanin, and Vicky has that in